This is the second Monday message in the month of May, which means that we are really in it. And it is the time of year where I look forward to the parenting blogs and videos on what it is like to parent in the month of May, which usually can be summed up by throwing in all the towels all the time for everything. And this time of year, with its busyness, both within schools and the community, even in church ministry, challenges a quotation by Eugene Peterson that I keep above my workspace. And this is what he writes. I want to be a pastor who prays. I want to be reflective and responsive and relaxed in the presence of God so that I can be reflective and responsive and relaxed in your presence. I want to be an unbusy pastor. And he has a whole series of writings about what it means to be an unbusy pastor and what that would look like for him in congregational ministry. And I think that in May, this unbusy pastor attitude and hope can get really challenged. And maybe if we're looking from the outside like we are unbusy, that there is that sense of being a duck where it's calm on the surface, but the legs underneath it are working so hard to keep that duck afloat. Or maybe something like the character of Joy in Inside Out, who has all those different fires going off inside her brain all the time, some that you would be able to know by looking at her and some that you wouldn't. And so when we feel a time where we might have too many external demands to really keep that internal sense of unhurriedness with each other, I want to read to you from the Gospel of Mark. The Gospel of Mark is the first gospel written about Jesus, telling the stories about him. And this happens in the very first chapter of the first gospel about Jesus in chapter 1, verse 35. So Jesus has called the disciples and he's done a few healings. Word about him is getting out. And so people are coming and getting a little bit more crowded where he is. So this is what it says in verse 35. In the morning, while it was still very dark, Jesus got up and went out to a deserted place, and there he prayed. And Simon and his companions hunted for him. When they found him, they said to him, "Everyone is searching for you." He answered, "Let us go on to the neighboring towns so that I may proclaim the message there also, for that is what I came out to do." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. I appreciate so many details here that Jesus has left, and even his closest group of disciples doesn't know where he's gone, so they hunt him. That is the verb that you find here. And then when they find him, they're kind of accusatory. Everyone is searching for you. Where did you go? Why would you go? And then his answer is just very clear on call and mission. This is what we're going to do next. That's what I came to do. It seems as though his time sort of away in that prayer gave him clarity for what it was that he was to do next. There are a lot of external pressures on Jesus. They're going to start in chapter 1, and they're only going to build. So it's like a whole life that is the month of May. And he keeps finding time to remove himself, to pray, to be in that presence of God, knowing that that is what is going to give him that internal spirit of rest and calm that he's going to want to have for those who are going to need his love and his life-giving spirit. I'm not great at the early morning part, getting up before dark to pray, but I am called by this passage to figure out what are going to be those times in the busiest time of year where I can just be in the presence of God in a way that therefore I can be in the presence of people with a little bit more of a calm heart and a stillness because of being with God. I challenge you to find something this week that gives you that kind of stillness and peace and presence of God, and I'll be working on it too. Thanks be to God.